Hello and welcome to the Paper Soprano podcast. I am, of course, your host, and my name is Heidi. And surprise, we've got another person here in our presence today. And this person, you're in for a treat, people. You don't even know, okay? You have no idea. You literally have zero thoughts. But I am super excited to introduce to you this person, this mystery human. Today on the podcast, we have John Secunde with us today. John, tell the people hello. Tell us who you are. What's going on?
Hello. Hi, what's up?
Hello. How are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the spiel, you know?
Well, I'm fantastic today. I'll start there.
Great.
I'm wearing my comfiest sweater. I haven't worn it all winter. But yeah, I'm John. I am originally from Maine. I am a composer, occasional saxophonist, occasional keyboard player. I met Heidi at the State University of New York at Fredonia. Classic. And I am currently living in Boston. And 2 years ago, I graduated from the Laundry School of Music with a degree in composition.
I didn't know you were living in Boston. How's that going?
I am. It's well, obviously, right now it's been better.
Yeah,
but
right.
overall, it's a great city to be a musician in because there's like 3 or 4 quite large music schools.
Yeah.
And then a number of other ones that are smaller, like Laundry, where I went to. So and a lot of the people who graduate from these schools stick around. Mm-hmm. So the musicians per capita is very high here.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of music of all varieties.
For sure. I personally have had a little bit of an eyebrow raised towards Boston more than one time in my life because I'm like, ooh, Boston's a little bit intriguing because I know there's a really big happening early music scene over in Boston.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm all about that. I feel like now you're probably totally right. It's probably not happening as many things in the world are not happening, but
yeah, but before in regular times, there would be multiple concerts every night. There is a website called the Boston Music Intelligencer, which has a calendar which lists every or at least tons of music events, and it's just 3 or 4 a night, and that's not including a lot of the school events, student recitals, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's I keep going back and forth because I feel like there's this large part of me who wants to stay in New York City and the surrounding areas, but also Boston's kind of calling to me, dude.
Yeah, I've been living here for 3 years, and I think it's great.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it.
So, speaking of your living situation, I know that you just recently got married. Congratulations.
Thank you, and that is true. I am a married man.
Oh, amazing. Because you got married this year, right?
In September, yes.
Oh my God, dude. How was getting married with all of this, well, it wasn't even happening during that time, September. Wait, this past September?
Of 2020.
Oh my God, dude. So wait a second. Yeah, how was it? What did you have to go through?
Our plan had always been to have a small ceremony outside with basically just our immediate family, her grandmother, and her best friend / maid of honor. Mm-hmm. So that's and the officiant, which was I think 10 people.
Yeah.
So we're outside, and within sort of the low number of people that is acceptable to be together. Mm-hmm. So that basically we got to get married in the way that we wanted to. The only thing was we were supposed to have a big reception the next day, but that didn't happen.
Sure.
But everything that we wanted to happen more or less happened. So we really got lucky. Because I know a number of people who were supposed to get married this summer who either had to get postponed or just do a courthouse thing, and we'll redo it again later.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of honestly a little bit of a secret bonus though, because now you get to kind of have an excuse to just do it again in a couple of years,
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to once it's appropriate party with our various friends and family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations again on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And what a time to have that memory in your
Yeah.
your back pocket there. That's amazing. I also have friends who have gotten married or, have postponed, or there's a myriad of situations that I've experienced with all my friends this past year, but all of them I'm just like, wow, I can barely like make dinner for myself, and I'm like, you guys are out here getting married in a pandemic, like, geez, oh my god.
I have to give most of the credit to my wife, Abby. She,
Oh, of course.
I mean, I certainly did contribute, but a lot of the wedding was her vision.
I'm sure. And honestly, like, not to be like as it should be, but like as women, we've got good visions, okay? Like,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, we got like married on, it sounds super exotic, but a beach on an island in Maine.
ooh, oh my god.
Again, it sounds really exotic, but it's like a small island in the middle of a big lake
Yeah.
in southern Maine. So, and it's also basically a bunch of like upper middle class people who have like, or have enough money to have a second home.
Yes.
Stuff like that. But yeah, it was super nice.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna segue a little bit here because I want the people to know a little bit more about you. So I want everybody listening to understand that, just a little bit of a sidetrack here, but this podcast has allowed me to like reconnect with a lot of people who I otherwise probably wouldn't have spoken to for at least another X amount of years. But so John and I did go to Fredonia together, and since like graduation or since Fredonia, we have not really spoken in like, that wasn't like a text message or a Instagram comment or something like that. So like, this is like, you're getting like a raw, real reconnection right here, girl. So like, get with it, okay? So John, that being said, let's do a little reminiscing on Fredonia. Let's tell the people a little bit about what the Fredonia experience is, and what was it like for you? What's like one of your most memorable experiences?
It was absolutely overall a complete blast. It was just a really super great community and super great music school and super great people.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really have asked for a better undergraduate experience overall, I'd say.
Yeah.
But in terms of like a particularly good memory, a lot of the really valuable and memorable musical experiences I had were through what's called the Ethos New Music Society,
mm-hmm.
which was the mostly the composers who ran it, but we would bring in other living composers
mm-hmm.
and performers of contemporary music to Fredonia.
Yeah.
And they would give lectures, master classes, performances, the whole nine. And one of the more memorable guests that we had was Roomful of Teeth.
Oh my god, I loved them. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you came. It was if you don't know, a Grammy-winning, if I'm right, vocal octet that does a whole host of really cool new music, and
mm-hmm.
they sort of burst into notoriety when Carolyn Shaw, one of their members, won the Pulitzer Prize for a piece that she had written for them, Partita for 8 Voices.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that piece. That was the first half of their program at the concert they gave at Fredonia. And I remember it ends with this really soft, really gorgeous E-flat major chord. And man, I was super close to crying. And I remember right after that, I talked to my friend Jared, and I expressed that, and he was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the program for that concert, but I do remember that being one of the shining moments of my Fredonia experiences. And there were a lot of concerts that we saw just like, because honestly, like, if you didn't go to Fredonia, we had this one whole entire class, like a course called like
mm-hmm.
concert attendance. So like, you had to go to certain things and you had to fulfill like a quota of concerts, which honestly, looking back, was a blessing in disguise, even though we kind of hated it, or we were like, oh, I've got to go see like 6 concerts in like the next week or something. But it was a really good concert. That Roomful of Teeth, that whole ensemble, I think I remember sitting in like the 3rd row of Rausch, and like, I just remember being like, oh my God, I have a very specific memory of some throat singing type deal. I don't
Yep.
exactly remember the piece, but it was very guttural and very polyphonic. Like it was almost like cacophony at certain points. Like
Mhm.
it was really interesting, and I remember being like, oh my God, how are they even making those sounds, which was the biggest thing for me as a vocalist.
Yeah, for sure. I think I again don't remember what else they did on that program, but there is some throat singing in the Carolyn Shaw piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I think their sort of thing is like they all like live all over and are very active and doing a whole lot of different things. But every summer they get together at a Mass MoCA, an art museum out in Western Massachusetts, and are in residency there for a couple of weeks, a month, or whatever.
Wow.
And they bring in all sorts of different people, singer people from different cultures, like the Mongolian throat singing. There's a type of Korean singing that I remember they talked about, and different stuff like that. So they learn all these different vocal techniques, and they also bring composers out there while they're doing this. And very often, the composers incorporate these different vocal sounds into the works.
Yeah, that's honestly like specifically because I'm a vocalist and I really have no other technique to draw on, but like it's really so interesting to me because in reality, there are limitless potential for sounds because we all have virtually very different instruments. So like even if we did have specific techniques for, standard vocal repertoire, like standard vocal repertoire is just assumed Western standard vocal repertoire, And like all of these things that I think of as vocal technique are just so pliable, and there are so many sounds that some people are like afraid to make because they might be like not what they're used to doing, or they might, there's not a ton of study done on them in our realm of study. There might be, but I'm not familiar with the long-term effects on vocal health for some of these things, you know what I mean? So it's interesting to me in a lot of ways, those kinds of extended techniques, and I'm like, I'm here for it. It's great.
Yeah, and like a lot of the pieces that they have written for them, I've seen some of the scores, and it's like they don't. It's not just like soprano 1, soprano 2. It's literally the names of the singers, and so like,
I love that.
Like one of their bass or whatever is particularly good at I forget what type, this a certain type of throat singing, and so like, oh, you're really good at this, yeah, we'll have you do this. Or like one of the sopranos has this, can really just get these like really beautiful coloratura high notes, like just pull them out of nowhere, and so that'll happen in these pieces, which of course makes them not as accessible if you don't have that exact type of voice.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
You don't have 8 different people with these very specific voices, and might be quite difficult to do. But at the same time, it's like it's super specific to them, and they're able to just like crush these very sort of unique and kind of wild sounds and put them all together in all these different cool combinations.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the dream, You've got 7 of your pals who are just all really good at something very specific, and you get together and you write music that people love, but no one's ever gonna outdo you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So Ethos, did they bring Jason Robert Brown?
We did. Yeah.
Oh, that was so great.
I think it was 2015 or so. Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God, that's another one of I'm thinking of the concerts at Fredonia that are just at the peak of my positive memories, and Jason Robert Brown like annihilated the piano in our main concert hall. Like he just like pounded that thing so hard. I've never seen somebody play piano like Jason Robert Brown. And if you're listening to this right now and you do not know who Jason Robert Brown is, you just need to go look him up. You need to go listen to any of his compositions, literally. Wearing Someone Else's Clothes, The Last 5 Years, like literally anything. If you're into pop music and you're listening to this, he did I think it's like a live show or something. It's a live recording with Ariana Grande, and you just need to hear it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You have to hear it. You must. So... I have such great memories from Ethos concerts. Did you guys also bring Jake Heggie, or was that Soda?
So I think that, like, our freshman year.
I think so.
Because I think Oh yeah, because he came back like since after we graduated. Yes, I think it was in conjunction with Soda. We brought him in, and I remember very often after these concerts we'll like go out to dinner with some of the guests, and so after Jake Hagee concert, I was like, of course I'm going to go out to dinner with this dude. But I forget, there was only like one or two students who went out to dinner with him, so it was like all like the highfalutin professors, and then like little freshman me. So this was like our first semester there. So I was like a first semester freshman at this. We went to the White Inn, which is a sort of fancier establishment,
right,
for dinner in the Fredonia area.
Yeah, right.
So there's little me. I'm like, and everyone's just having these like really interesting conversations.
Yeah, that was me when, I forgot, but I did go out. We went to EBC with Jason Robert Brown. Mm-hmm. And it was so bizarre. I was literally like, I felt like I was staring at him the whole time because I was just like, I can't believe that you're eating food. Like, you are not even a human. Like, how could you, like, I can't believe you're sitting down in a chair. Like, all of these things we were doing with Jason Robert Brown was like incredible. And I'm like, looking back, I feel so like starstruck to have met somebody like that, but now being older and having interacted with a lot of wonderful people, not saying that Jason Robert Brown is any less wonderful now that I'm older, but it's more human to experience interactions with these types of people. But Fredonia was such a unique experience because we were so young and so like dewy-eyed and bushy-tailed and like, oh my god, like my hero is eating dinner next to me at EDC. Like
yeah, and like being so involved with Ethos for all those years, like I got to meet and like spend time with a lot of these people, and a lot of these groups, that sometimes some of them just kind of like younger people, not very much older than us, and they just happen to be really good, and so we bring them in. But getting to meet all these like Pulitzer Prize winning composers and other very like notable performers, and just like hanging out with them after, or it's like driving them around to their hotel.
Oh my god,
and,
yes.
Like, that's like you're not going to be like too in awe of someone when they're like ordering French fries or something.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing too. I remember we had an opera singer come with SOTA, which I'm using that as an acronym if you don't know what SOTA is. SOTA. It's a Fredonia organization that stands for Student Opera Theater Association. Wow, I can speak. And we had Sandra Peaks Eddy come on to our agenda one year, and it was amazing because I got the honor of getting to pick her up from the Buffalo airport in my little rinky-dink Chevy Cobalt. And it was literally like the most insane thing getting to speak to her, and we're friends on Facebook now, and she's a very kind woman. She has like a daughter, and she sings at the Met all the time. She's a wonderful, wonderful opera singer, and it's like I would never have had that experience if it wasn't for Fredonia. Like, the place is just a diamond in the rough. I can't say it enough.
I 100% agree. It is super unexpectedly good because I came from Maine, so I don't really have sort of like, I know a lot of New York music school teachers are from Fredonia, but I didn't have any of that, so I just like came out there and just like, oh, this place seems really cool. I got a good vibe from it. Yeah. But once you're there, you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many things happening every day.
Yeah. It was a jam-packed 4 years, and like the professors, the classes, the experience, the whole like downtown scene, which honestly I say downtown very lightly because it's literally like
very lightly.
Yeah, it's very like one stoplight. Like, that's literally like how Fredonia is. And but it was such a very, it was like a little petri dish, and we were all in there just hanging out and living our lives. And then at the same time, though, like, we were all being so well taken care of that it was like we were really well prepared for things to come. So you said that were you at Longy? Longy. I never know how to pronounce it.
So you've heard of it?
I have. Yes,
Whoa.
But I've only like read it. I've only like seen, well, because, a lot of music schools, I feel like, especially on like the East Coast and like, you know, it's close to the city or whatever, a lot of them are just like small little things like here and there. Like,
Yeah.
you know, specifically like Stony Brook, I'm thinking of also like Bard College and
Yep.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all of these little similar diamond in the rough places, but for grad students basically. So yeah, I've heard of Longy. Am I saying that
Yep.
right?
Yes.
But I've only read it on paper, so obviously I haven't pronounced it.
That's fair.
But how was that experience compared to Fredonia?
Well, it's very different because obviously you think you've talked about it on the podcast before how different social life is in graduate school versus
Yes.
in undergrad, and likewise I was not super prepared for that because I've lived sort of in the same area of Boston this whole time, and it's, you know, like a 20-minute bus ride away from school, and so I can't just, you know, walk over there and I'm right there. I have to wait outside in the freezing cold and wait for my bus, hope it comes on time.
Right.
Get there, then walk to school from the bus stop.
Ugh,
and then I also have to work like nearly full time to pay for my apartment, and so I'm not like getting to hang out very much and really get to know everyone. But since everyone is in basically having the exact same experience, I felt that there was sort of I feel like everyone felt this way, a very sort of implicit community where it's like you kind of see someone and you're like, oh, you're here too. We kind of have the same thing going on.
Yeah. That happened.
We can relate here.
For sure. Like the relating thing is like the best part because the actual physical like manifestation of that isn't always like super great. Like when I first arrived at Stony Brook, one of my friends who is still one of my very, very good friends now, Alina Tamburini, she was yeah, you know her. We'll talk about that in a second. But like she was so excited to have another vocalist and just to have like people coming in. She was like, we need to hang out, like super, like we've got to get together and we've got to do these things and we've got to, you know, do all these things. And I was literally like, yeah, like this is amazing. And her energy is really what I think fueled a lot of my socialization my first year or two, because some people I feel like, while yes, they commiserate with the grad school grind, as you might put it, they're not very good at executing the plans. You know what I mean?
Especially when like you have a job and also like I'm not sure what it's like there, but the people that I'm friends with like live even like further away. Like they probably take like 50 minutes to get there because public transportation and all that stuff. I don't have a car here, so it's super hard to get anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people that are at Stony Brook, which is like right on the top of like the middle of Long Island, so northernmost Long Island, like right in the middle, a lot of people who go to Stony Brook live in the city, so they have to commute from Manhattan or wherever they are, Brooklyn or anywhere, and like literally take the train an hour or two to get out to Stony Brook. And yeah, like sometimes we'll have concerts at night, or you know, we'll have things going on and people will be like, oh, you know, let's go drive 15 minutes to get to a bar and have a drink together. And they'll be like, I'm sorry, I have to go wait for a train to get back to the city because it's going to take me like maximum like 2 or 3 hours to actually get through my front door, you know?
Yeah, because I'm hanging out with someone up in like Somerville on the other side of the river, and it's like, oh, it's like 10 p.m., which, you know, usually I would like hang out for much longer, but it's like the trains are going to stop running at like 12:30, and I don't want to miss the last train.
Yeah, ugh. It's a struggle. But speaking of Alina Tamburini, soprano extraordinaire and also member of Sputterbox Small Ensemble extraordinaire, what's your experience with Sputterbox? How do you know them?
So I first became aware of them through another Fredonian, Alan Hankers, composer extraordinaire. He had just posted up something someday 2 years ago, whatever, and like, oh, this group is playing a piece of mine, and it was Sputterbox. And so I was like, oh, cool. I haven't, you know, heard any new music from Alan. And it's at a cool venue, small venue in Cambridge. I'll go hang out. And so I went and saw their concert, and it was super cool. It was super lit. But
Yeah.
I didn't get to stick around after with them because I had a date with my now wife.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I followed them on all the social medias, and yeah, that's how I first became aware of the box.
Yeah, and you have written for them, correct?
I did through that the Sputter Shrinks the Box
Yes,
little
yes,
project I
yes.
did at the beginning of quarantine.
How was that? Because they're a unique mix of ensemble with percussion, voice, and reed, clarinet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She plays multiple stuff. I know she can do saxophone and all the clarinets and things like that. So I always am like, oh yeah, clarinet, question mark, for Catherine? Like,
Yes, in this instance, yes, bass clarinet.
yeah. So what did you have to go through, like, writing for that specific conglomerate of instruments?
I mean, I'm kind of used to, I've written for a variety of odd
Yeah.
instrumentations before, so, and I'm honestly more excited by something that's a little more left field. Like, I'm more inspired by a combination of soprano, bass clarinet, and djembe than I am like a string quartet.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there are sort of like, when you have something kind of weird like that,
Mm-hmm.
you're sort of forced to think differently. Because when you have something that's very easy, like you're writing for a piano, like I have a keyboard in my apartment. I can more or
Yeah.
less figure out what to do with a piano.
Right.
But when you have sort of a more challenging thing, you have to think differently.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you're writing something that's under a minute, there's also another sort of constraint there. So
Yeah.
I wrote the piece fairly quickly, I think. It only took me a couple of days.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember listening to, because I think this whole Shrinks the Box thing happened during quarantine. Am I correct?
Yeah, very early on. I think it was April, maybe late March.
Yeah.
Because I was the first one. I wrote it pretty much like the day after they put it out. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I got to do this right now. And
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, what do you mean by, like, I wrote it very quickly? Like, how quick is quick for you in, like, composing something that's a minute long?
well, mine was only 30 seconds, so it took half as
Oh
long
my
as it was before,
God,
probably.
you're extra
But,
fast.
because I had found this poem, or I was aware of this poem that I used called A Pool by the poet H.D.
Right.
And it's like 5 lines long. So I'm like, this poem's so great, but it's only 5 lines long. What can I really do with that?
Mhm.
I'd have to be a part of something bigger. So I didn't really have any plans for it. So when I saw it, I was like, ooh, I have this poem in the back of my mind. I sort of thought about it. And yeah, so I sort of, I think, quickly sort of wrote out sort of a vocal sort of line,
Mm-hmm.
and then sort of built around there. If I'm
Yeah.
remembering right. That's how I usually do it.
So you start with the vocals if that's, like, your main focus. Because I feel like sometimes writing for voice is difficult, mainly just because when I sing things that are written either by, modern composers or by people who are studying composition, I think the hardest thing for me to feel comfortable with is syllabification and how long each word is, like, drawn out, or how short it is. Sometimes if words are not organic enough, sometimes I feel like singing them is either difficult or feels like contrived. You know what I mean?
Do you mean like the words themselves, like the
Yes.
prose being set?
Yeah, so if I had the word, like, Fredonia, and
Yeah.
like, if I had to sing that and I sang Fredonia, like, that would make sense. But if it was like Fredonia, like, all, like, it depends on the context. But, like, specific things about syllabification sometimes, like, if it's very wordy and there's a lot of words, but the words are drawn out or, like, tied over the bar line or rhythmically displaced, sometimes I feel like language gets in the way and it becomes like, I'd rather just sing on a syllable if we're gonna do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the one I tend to sort of gravitate towards when I am, like, using text, like, sort of more kind of concise, specific, not overly verbose.
Yes.
Because that's not what I, like, respond to.
Yeah. I literally am an idiot and I know zero things. So like, don't take anything. If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, Heidi, what are you talking about? Like, you would be correct. I only know what I've experienced in my own singing, and specifically, I think for me, a mark of like a really interesting vocal line is like really clever text setting within rhythm and, you know, syllabification. But I think that there's so many things, because I remember watching all of those Sputter Shrinks the Boxes, all of those little miniatures, and I remember being like, there is seriously just like unlimited potential within this 1 minute. Like, there's so much that I feel like people did over, like, if you watched the you know, continuation of them. I don't know how many of them you watched, but I remember watching yours, and it was a long time ago. I should have rewatched it before we chatted, but like, I remember watching like Kyle Lewis's, and I think Alan probably wrote one. I'm not sure, but
I don't think he did.
Yeah, he probably, he's been posting other things, but you know, they were so varied, and
for sure.
It's so interesting to me. I'm always very baffled by composition today, and I know you've been listening to the podcast, so like, I love talking about contemporary music. I wouldn't consider myself like a contemporary aficionado by any means, but I appreciate the genre a lot, and yeah, it's so much fun. I feel like what's an instrument that you feel like is really fun to write for? Like, you're like, yes, I get to write for melodica or like something, you know what I mean?
It's funny you mentioned melodica, because I remember, I think again back in April, I bought a melodica.
You did?
Yeah, and I remember this because I think you posted something saying like, I want a melodica or something around the same time, and I was like, hey, I just bought one and it's super lit. And
dude,
you're like, oh, you're tempting me.
Oh my god, now I'm literally having flashbacks. Where was I for the past like 6 months? But like, I am having, because you know what, I love melodica because I really love Jacob Collier, and I don't know what's your opinion on Jacob Collier. I don't want to like start talking about him if you're not a fan or you don't care to speak of him.
I'm not really a fan. I don't want to diss your boy.
You do not have to worry about dissing my boy, because like, honestly, he's definitely not my boy. I have no claim over Jacob Collier. But
I just know you're a big fan of it.
I am a big fan. I'm just kind of mystified by his abilities, and the whole melodica thing was always really I think he was my first exposure to melodica, to be perfectly frank. Like, I had never really seen one before or played to the caliber that he was able to do before I heard him take a solo on one, and I was like, dang, okay, like, all right, melodica, I want one of those.
Honestly, I don't even know how I got the idea of wanting one. I think I just saw one somewhere. I was like, you know what? I want that. So I went on eBay and got like a vintage one.
Yeah. So what do you do with it? What do you play?
I haven't actually played it in a while, but once I sort of first got it, I was like really interested in sort of the reedy sound of it, because it sort of has like a harmonica quality, but obviously the harmonica, you're sort of limited in what you can play.
Yeah.
You're sort of limited sort of the key that it's in. But with the melodica, you can play sort of these very low, reedy, like crunchy, dissonant chords that just have these. It just vibrates differently, and like it physically vibrates you, because you're holding the air as you blow into it into your head.
Yeah, I would love to like really understand the anatomy of the instrument a little better. I feel like I have a bad concept of what it actually is.
I think it's very similar to a harmonica, where like you blow into the whatever the mouthpiece, and you press down on the keys, which sort of release something that allows the air to flow through a reed that is tuned to the specific note.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's not electronic at all.
No.
Okay.
It's completely air powered.
I don't know why. I literally have no idea why I would think that, but for me, I guess looking at that little keyboard would make me think that it was like electronic in some way.
Yeah, there are. I have seen comparable sized keyboards that are electronic and like handheld as well.
So have you ever written anything for melodica?
I did. I wrote a little set of very short pieces that I just played for myself. And I think I recorded them and they're on my SoundCloud or something.
I also remember, now I'm having like a That's So Raven moment right now, where I remember you bought a toy piano at some
I
point.
did. So like 5 minutes ago, you asked like what is an instrument that gets me excited, and toy piano is that thing.
Why? What's the appeal? Give it, like, lay it out for us.
So I kind of basically said it like this before, that you kind of can't make it sound good.
Yeah.
It's always, because it's literally meant for children.
Right.
When I say toy piano, I got like a higher end toy piano, but it's still a toy piano. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much one of the distinctive quirks about toy piano is that each one will be slightly out of tune, but in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
And you can like do all these things like shave the little metal vibrating bits that make the sound to like make it more in tune, but that's sort of one of the weird quirks of it. Like I think one of the A's on mine is just so grossly sharp, and then like the B flat above it is so grossly flat. They're basically the same note.
Yeah, dude.
But it's just sort of like just accepting that this is sort of the quality of the instrument, like we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Each human voice has its own sort of unique sound.
Yeah,
and it's I guess same thing with any instrument. But I think it's particularly pronounced with the toy piano.
Yeah, that's I think one of the big draws for me as well. When I see it, I'm intrigued by how it could even work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm intrigued, like, what are you gonna have to do to make me buy what you're selling, basically, you know? And I think that that's super interesting, because a lot of what I'm exposed to at like the doctoral level right now is a lot of like, string ensembles and large bands and operas and things that are conventional, you know what I mean? So when I see something that's super unconventional, I'm like, ooh, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm very intrigued.
Because for me, something that this is like sort of my life philosophy, like serious playfulness.
Yeah.
Or being playfully serious. And so obviously you have this sort of playful element of the toy piano, but if you just like play something, but you take it very seriously, and there are these pieces that are sort of very like sort of cerebral sounding, but they're on a toy piano. So there's sort of that conflict or sort of dissonance between the playful and the serious, and it's just sort of this really magical thing. And you can't, for the listeners, you don't know this about me, I'm very tall. So watching this very tall man sit down to play this very small child instrument, there's another sort of like weird thing, because every time I've performed on it, when I sit down, people chuckle. And so like I feel like just people seeing that sort of gets them in the right mood to sort of experience this thing.
For sure. I honestly, now that you're describing it, I'm like, I'm 100% in. Like, I am so in, it's not even funny. Like, I want a full concert. Like, I want program notes. I want everything. Like, and I want literally there to be an empty stage and just a small toy piano. I want you to come out in, like, a full tux, like, throw your tails behind you and sit down at this toy piano. Like, that would be just amazing. Like, I'm sold.
I'm so glad. It's a lot of fun, and as I said, I've performed on it a few times, and it's just so fun, because most people sort of have the same perception of you, like, oh, what is this? What's this thing? What's it going to sound like? And then I play whatever the music that I've written for it or I have found for it, and they're like, oh, that was fun. And that's sort of, I guess, something that isn't necessarily so much a part of like the classical music world, having fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's specific instances where that is the case, or it's designed to be hilarious or whatever, but sometimes I think that's kind of the case in contemporary music. Like, sometimes I feel like I go to a concert and Stony Brook is really, really good at showcasing the composers here and, putting on a lot of new music. And sometimes I would go to a concert and it would be very serious, and a lot of like, you know, ambient music, some things that are very loud and raucous, but also very serious, and like, the performers are sweating and it's like intense, and I'm like, oh my God. And I think that the humor that comes with either playing a toy piano or doing something funny on stage is just another way to interact with an audience in a way that's like, look, I'm creating something and it's welcoming. It's I'm not trying to put anybody in a place and I'm up here on this pedestal. Like, it's a very accessible thing. Humor is accessible. And I love that. I think that's really special to have elements of humor in a composition.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you said. A lot of contemporary music is sort of concerned with basically trying to like be very serious so that it can kind of be like, oh, this is sort of within sort of the canon. Because, you think of Bach, playing his organ fugues, and that's very like, eyebrows scrunched, and Beethoven with his, I'm raging against the gods and throwing thunderbolts or whatever.
Yeah.
But is that really what we, basically that's not what I want to do.
Yes,
and I'm not going to like try to, make fun or belittle anyone who does want to be serious. And I certainly myself have made music that is a bit more serious, and I enjoy plenty of music that takes itself very seriously. But at the same time, why don't we just, at least this is my view only, what is wrong with just trying to enjoy what we're doing now instead of trying to think about what's sort of the big grand narrative of music and how am I fitting into this?
Yeah.
Why don't I just do what I like?
Right.
Which is sometimes just sort of derping around.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I think I agree a lot on both sides of the spectrum, because I do a lot of serious stuff, and obviously, like, as an opera singer, there's a lot of drama and like, the back of my hand on my head and like, crying all the time and blah. There's a lot of drama in opera, obviously, but I also love jazz, and I think jazz is very humorous in the way that it's, it's communication. And for me, the way I communicate is through using a lot of humor. I think it's nice to have a conversation where you're smiling and laughing, and when you're in a band sitting down with a bunch of people and you're hanging out and having a conversation, if you happen to be playing music in that conversation, I feel like it's really interesting to incorporate, funny quotes here and there, throw the lick in a couple times, make make somebody laugh, and it'll bring you closer together. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And it's not just like, oh, I'm trying to make a joke here. But sort of like a playfulness where like, ooh, this here was kind of unexpected. You don't need to be trying to like, put a meme in your piece or whatever, which of course you're welcome to do. No, nothing against memes. We love memes. But
yeah, no, I totally get it.
Ooh, this was kind of unexpected, or like, ooh, this is sort of this something that's kind of, ooh, this is kind of awkwardly long. Mm-hmm. This is kind of weird, and then all of a sudden it's getting thrown out of it. I find that to be just as humorous, if not like, haha, hee humorous, but sort of humorous in its own way.
I'm just having a flashback now. I'm thinking about this. One of the, I think if not the first time I ever was exposed to graphic notation was with Alina Tamburini and also my very good friend Kat Sandsted. And we were given this assignment with our contemporary chamber ensemble, and they were like, okay, you three sopranos, like, here's this piece, go ahead. And it was graphic notation. I had no clue. Alina, of the three of us, was the most experienced with contemporary stuff, so we were kind of like taking notes from her and just kind of being like, what do we do? Oh my God. Kat and I are more classically based, I guess, or just kind of fueled by standard notation. And at one point, we were all so frustrated and just like, I can't figure out what we're going to do for this. Like, because we have to pick not only sounds, but also vowels and consonants and articulations and things that have to come out of this. And these are literally just like dots and squiggles on a page. like, what am I supposed to do here? What is this? So we decided there was 2 movements. We decided that the whole second movement, the medium would be laughter, not singing.
Okay.
And, you know, we followed the contours of things, and we kind of were a little bit literal with it on the page, but for the most part, it was just like we were manipulating our own laughter as like the medium of creating. And I thought that was, one, obviously very contagious, because like as humans we're empathetic and we all like laugh when we see other people laughing, and the same thing with like frowning and yawning and whatever.
For sure.
But, you know, it was so interesting to me because like that was totally acceptable. Like our professor was like, yeah, sure, love that. And we were like, are you sure though? Is that okay? Like you're not trying to make fun of it. Like we're just trying to be like, you know, this is what we came up with. This is all we have right now. And he's like, I'm here for it. Like you should run with that and do it. And we're like, okay.
I think that's kind of a great thing about like a graphic type score. As long as you approach it with like some sort of integrity and like seriousness, you can kind of do whatever you want as long as it sort of abides by sort of the general scheme.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, anything goes.
Yeah, for sure. It was an interesting experience. And honestly, I will never forget it because I do remember being so like I was very uptight about it. I was like, I'm frustrated. I can't figure out what this means. I'm upset because I don't know how to read this. And like that was, for me at least, part of the process, because at some point I was like, okay, it's not about me trying to figure it out. It's about us coming to a conclusion about this. And I think as a group, if we can decide on something that we all agree on and are like okay with doing on stage, then like that's part of, for at least for me, part of the process of, you know, dissecting this graphic notation.
Yeah, I think as long as you're like doing something that you're comfortable with, and you know, everyone else that you're playing with is comfortable with, and you're again being sort of true to the piece and sort of the spirit of the piece. Mm-hmm. And again, with a graphic score, like the composer is just by doing that, they're deliberately leaving a whole host of things up to just whatever the performer is feeling like doing. Like if they probably didn't imagine the second movement being all laughter,
right?
But again, you approached it with seriousness and care, and that's all a composer can really ask for.
Yeah, it was interesting, but I wanted to ask you not about, there was, I wrote it down over here. I remember in Fredonia there was I don't know if you ever were in like Dr. Rudge's free improv kind of thing, or I know Sputterbox does like they did a program, I guess you could call it, where there was like Sputter opens the box and there was a lot of free improv. Have you ever been involved in free improv?
So maybe not free improv, but a group that I'm a part of, again, with some Fredonia guys called J Drive. All our names start with J.
Nice.
We did, since we're all sort of in different cities now, I speak in the past tense, but when we were all together, we would do a lot of music where there was a lot of openness. One of our bass player and fellow Fredonian, Jason Handren, he wrote a piece called Zwölf, which is German for 12. Mm-hmm. And the score is 12 different little graphic things. So one is like all these little dots. Another one is some squiggle lines and various other sort of shapes of lines. And basically the way the piece works is, since there's 4 of us, each of us will start in a corner, and then we have to move to an adjacent shape. And each of us, we sort of just choose our own adventure, if you will. And it's all just a lot about listening, like, oh, what is Jared doing? Oh, John did this. Okay, I'm going to sort of move more quickly to this box so I can respond to what else is going around me. And sometimes, each time the piece is completely different. You might not even probably think it's the same piece.
Yeah.
But like every time there'll always be some sort of magical moment where something unexpected will happen. Someone will just all of a sudden start playing really loudly, and it's like, oh man, I got to get on that. Or these sort of contrasting textures of like short high notes and other low notes going on. So again, that's sort of the magic of it. Like these things will just happen, and you just have to go with it.
So you've written this out, so it's like notated score, or notated like some parameters, really.
Oh, barely written out at all. It's just those shapes.
Oh, I love that. So there's 12
Yeah.
of them. So, okay, just describe it, lay it out for me. I'm a little confused.
Yeah. So it's like a 3x4 grid.
Okay.
And like each sort of, I guess, little box has a sort of a drawing or a shape of a line or something.
Oh, okay.
A little sort of graphic.
So you're not
to be realized musically.
So you're not standing in corners of a room.
Oh no! I'm sorry.
Okay.
You start in the corners of the score
Okay.
of the grid. My apologies. That could be cool though.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, oh, I love that you have like choreography. I love that.
No, we're standing still, more or less.
I got you. So everybody's looking at this grid like a bingo board, basically.
Yeah, and we all have the same thing.
I love that. And you're all just moving in the same direction, or you're moving differently?
We're moving completely to our own wills and sort of based on like responding to what else is going on.
Nice. I love that. And who is in this ensemble? I must know.
Yes, so it's myself, John Secunde,
Right.
Jason, and what we all like graduated from Fredonia with degrees in composition. Myself, Jason Handren, who plays bass, Jared Yaskew, who plays baritone saxophone, and John Jansen, who is sort of our wild card, who plays various amplified string instruments,
Nice.
like guitar, but also instruments that he built.
Ooh, like what? Yeah. What other amplified string instruments can you build?
Well, he is. I'm probably going to like say something wrong, and he'll be mad at me. But maybe he won't listen, and this won't be a problem. But one of the sort of his like sort of signature things that he's built numbers of are what are they called? Harmonics guitars,
Ooh.
which are basically string instruments that it's very difficult to describe. There is a it's like a long piece of 2x4, like 6 feet long or something, and the strings are attached on both ends. But there is the bridge, which usually is at the one of the far ends, is in the middle.
Okay.
Like sort of the smack dab in the middle. And I forget where the pickup is that picks up the vibrations of the strings. But basically you play on the end that doesn't have the pickup.
Okay.
But you your hand is on the side with the pickup, so you get basically play the harmonics of the string on the electrified side.
Interesting.
So it sounds very glassy and mysterious, and you kind of get like the drone of the whole string.
Yeah.
And of course, you can tune the strings to, whatever you want, and sort of create your own sort of different colors.
Sure. So he built it?
Yes.
Has it been created before, or is he just built one? Okay.
Yeah, it's based on, I think, it's an instrument that a guy named Glenn Bronca made, which was based on another instrument that a fellow named Harry Parch had built.
Interesting. Yeah, that's far out. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your ensemble, but you guys don't perform anymore?
Yeah, we're kind of on so Jared's in Buffalo, Jason's in Albany, I'm here in Boston, and John, the other John, moved to Washington, D.C. pretty recently. But I think we're obviously all still like homies and stuff, and if the opportunity comes up, we'll definitely get the band back together. Yeah. We're kind of on hiatus just due to our living situations.
And what was your name called again?
J Drive, but it's spelled like drive, open parenthesis, J, colon, close parenthesis.
Love that.
Like a computer. Right. You can attach different like storage drives to a computer, and they're lettered. So like drive A, drive B, but it said like A drive. So we're J Drive.
Love that. I literally am living for that name. That's something that I feel like is so it's so unique. I have so many friends and colleagues who are in like these small ensembles, and as a singer, like I know it could be materialized very easily if I really wanted to, but I just feel like it's so much easier for instrumentalists to get together and do some stuff, because there's all these cool like far out pieces written for instruments and not for voices. But I might just be not looking in the right places.
No, I think you're 100% correct. I think that for whatever reason, voice in chamber music, it obviously exists, so I'm not saying
Yeah.
that, but the amount of it existing and the amount of groups that exist, which would then commission pieces to exist, are just so much fewer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's weird because we obviously have, like, vocal music has, like, a cappella music, which is, you know, I have my own qualms about a cappella music, but, like, it also has, like Roomful of Teeth, kind of what they're doing, and, like, far out stuff in that realm. And of course, choral music. There's some far out choral music if I ever heard some, but you know, it is hard because you really have to have the right number of people and, like, the right types of voices. You can't just be like, oh, hey, like, I play saxophone, but I also play bass clarinet and, like, whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I can, like, I can multi-instrument. You know, vocalists just can't do that, you know?
Yeah.
Which some people can. Like, I can fake it on, you know, an alto line or whatever, but... And honestly, I have a couple of friends, like, a couple guy friends, who could honestly throw down some, like, high soprano lines. Like, in some falsetto.
Nice countertenor.
Yeah, like a little high soprano, a little countertenor action. But it's so specific, and I think that's probably why it's not as common.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Like, so, like, our band, it's like, I play alto saxophone, but also keyboard instruments. Jared plays bari sax, so two saxophones, like string bass and electric guitar. Like, that's obviously something that there's nothing for that.
Yeah.
So, but since we're all composers, we just write for it.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, maybe I should
solve our own problems.
Yeah, maybe I should just start writing for this, and it'll solve all my problems as well.
Make it happen. You made this podcast happen. You can write your own music.
I can do anything.
It's not that hard, I promise.
Oh my god, yeah, right. You were in theory class with me. You know that is not gonna happen.
It was too many years ago. I don't remember anything.
It honestly, I remember so specifically. Like, I think.
Sorry, what class were we in?
I think we were in.
What theory number was it?
I don't remember, but I remember Jeremy Segala.
Oh, that was theory 2.
Okay. And I remember very specifically, you sat, like, I was in the front row and so were you, but you were on the farthest, like, closest to the window, like, right on that, you know, you come...
By the radiator, yeah.
Yes, right by the radiators, right by the front desk kind of deal. And I don't know why, but I have this, like, emblazoned image of Jeremy Segala, like, in my brain teaching us theory. And, like, I couldn't really tell you anybody else in that class, but, like, I remember you sat on that side, and maybe, like, Volanti was in that class or something. All these names are, like, just swimming around in my brain, but visually, like, seeing, you know, Dr. Segala come in with, like, his leather laptop bag and, like, his black turtleneck with a, you know, his soul patch and spiked gelled hair, it's, like... All of these things are so emblazoned on my memory. I wish the actual content of that theory class was also emblazoned on my memory.
Was likewise emblazoned.
Right. I don't know why, but I'm like, I have so many very, very strong sense memories, I guess. But I wanted to ask you, John, because like I have this podcast, you have another creative outlet that is rather unique and away from the music realm. You create art, and, like, you have, like, a whole art page. What made you start, like, creating in physical space as opposed to, like, time with music?
So it all started basically at my day job. I worked in, like, an office, and for whatever reason, there were these pastel crayons in this office, a pack of them. And I was like, they weren't being used, and I knew that they were never going to be used. So I was like, hey, can I just take these? And they were like, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I took them, and I just, like, for whatever reason, I had been wanting to, basically since I had gotten out of school, I had been finding, like, composing harder because I'm not, like, around music all the time. I'm not around other people who are, like, actively creating music. So I'm just kind of in my own little bubble trying to do my thing.
Sure.
So I was like, because I never drawn before. So I was like, you know what, I just want to draw for some reason. And when I saw these pastel crayons, I was like, this is what I should do with this. And then, so yeah, I just sort of basically started drawing as another creative outlet, because unlike music, if I were to draw a line, boom, there it is, it's done.
Yeah.
But like if I write a note, I have to write more notes, but also like find someone to do it, and all these other sort of things. And also I have like the fact that I have like, you know, training in music. I have all this extra baggage.
Yes.
In my mind, and I'm sure anyone who is like has a degree in anything can relate to sort of the extra baggage of like knowing too much.
Yes, the baggage. Oh my God.
So like, yeah. So I no art training whatsoever, no inclination towards drawing before in, you know, by previous 25 years of my life or whatever. But I just felt like this would be a good way for me to be creative, but also be free in a way that I wouldn't be with music.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of mixed mediums, right? You sometimes use cutouts, you sometimes use like little snippets of things. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. I sort of am kind of not stealing, but there's this one particular artist who was also from Maine. His name's Louis Frosingnol, and he does a lot of sort of the similar things. So when I first saw that, I was like, dang, that's so cool. And so I sort of have started using a lot of like random bits of paper with, you know, various writings, sort of weird looking faces, stuff like that.
Yeah. And what's your inspiration? Like if you're sitting down and you're like, I'm going to make something right now, do you have like something in mind beforehand, or you just kind of like let it go and whatever comes out is what's on the page?
Sometimes it's like I'll find a clipping or something. I'll be like, ooh, that's really cool. I immediately get an idea. I see like something, because I use a lot of like old newspapers, and like, ooh, I see a headline or a word or something. Like, ooh, there's a something. Or maybe sometimes I'll just sort of make the paper. That is, I'll like sort of collage it up in whatever way. And then sometimes I'll just like trigger some idea. Or sometimes I will literally just like, okay, I'm just going to go and see what happens. And then what happens, and I'll deal with it.
Yeah. Love that. But sometimes they're like funny. I remember like seeing a couple of these and being like, oh, that was like a pun, and like I like that. Or like it's like a little bit like similar to what you're doing with your composing in a way. Like that voice is still there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's because, you know, I am me. I'm John, and I kind of, you know, can't turn John off, for better or for worse.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, that's not a bad thing. So I think that's really interesting, and I do really like your output of those things. Like I scroll past them, and it's such a relieving break from all of the other like phony Instagram type things that I see on there. You know what I mean? Like you see all of these like very polished, like brain eating kind of like, we're gonna make this the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, so you can't do anything but like stare at it and like be consumed by it. And then you see like your drawings, and they're so like raw and just like, oh my God, like I look at them in a similar like I stop to look at them kind of way, but it's not like in that same way, you know what I mean? Like it's such a different it's just different. I can't really describe it.
Hearing you say that means a lot. Thanks. So thank you very much. That
of course
that really made my day. But yeah, I'm not good. I mean, I have no training in art. I have no particular skills. I just try to mimic what I see or what I think I do. And I think what you're sort of saying about sort of the social media being this sort of wash of like perfection.
Yeah.
And like clean, glossy images and all that stuff. Like, sure, that's cool and that's great. And certainly, you know, I just got married, so of course I know what, you know, a perfect, just happy, smiling picture looks like.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I want to try to, like, not just in like my social media presence, but in my life, try to just live more honestly. Just sort of be John, and John isn't perfect.
I honestly love that. 10 out of 10, dude. And the one thing I don't love about what you said is just because you said, I'm not good at this. And I'm like, listen, just because you're not trained doesn't mean your product isn't good. Because I think that it is good. And like, I like what you're throwing out into the world. And like, just like this podcast, I am not trained in any way. I'm literally like, I've got like the jankiest setup on the planet Earth for a podcast. But like I'm just throwing it out there, and I think just throwing it out there is sometimes like an aesthetic, you know?
Yeah, and I remember when you first posted the first of these, and I was on the train coming home from work, and I saw it, and I was like, whoa. So I listened to it, and then I remember like right after I messaged you like, this was so cool. Like just seeing someone I know like doing the thing that they want to do and like have wanted to do, sort of actualizing their dreams. I was like, damn, that's so lit. And yeah, I'm really glad that you've like that this is bringing you some sort of joy.
Yeah, dude.
Because it also like I'm like reconnecting with you, and it's like sort of again seeing someone else who's also just like being raw and being real, and it's like that's so great.
Yeah, man, I agree, and I thank you for that. That's really, it does mean a lot to me. I'm super pumped to be putting these out every day and just like living it up, you know? And I also am going to have to cut our conversation short. I don't know how. It's already been an hour and 5 minutes, but
oh geez,
we're killing it, literally
it,
annihilating it, murdering it, and it has been such a great conversation and great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for being on the pod.
Thank you so much, Heidi. This was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, you're welcome back anytime. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, I'm going to give John a second here to like plug himself and give you all the info, but also know that don't be scared when he says all of this or whatever he's about to say, because I will include everything in the description of the video and you'll be able to find everything there. So John, do your magic, dude. Plug away.
I really don't have very much to plug. Basically, my website is probably the easiest place to get anything you want to know about me. It's myname.com, JOHNSECUNDE.com. And from there you can find all like music that I have, clips, pictures, blah, 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 links to my various social medias. I'm sure if you just search John Secunde, there aren't very many other John Secundes around. So I have that market cornered.
And on social medias, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's just like John Secunde on Instagram. I can't remember my Twitter handle, but I barely use Twitter. Don't worry about it.
And we'll have it all. And you have a page for your art in case somebody wanted to see your art,
yeah,
right?
That's J Secunde Art.
Got it. Okay, and we'll include all of this down below. But yeah, you guys, everybody listening out there, we're gonna wrap it up here. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much again, John, for coming on the podcast. And if you like this podcast and you want to support it in some way, go ahead, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. Like, even if you're just listening to it, that's enough for me. Thanks so much for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, night, whenever you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this. John, thank you once again for being here.
Thank you.
Of course. And yeah, you guys, that's it. All right. I never know how to end these podcasts, so I'm going to do it the same way I always do. Love you, mean it, and bye-bye.